This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Are you suffering from innovation fatigue? Innovation fatigue is the term used by Los Angeles Times technology columnist Brian Merchant, who says that over the past 20 years, there's been advance after advance, some great, some compelling, others less so, making it harder to be completely optimistic about any of them. Michael Goldsby, who's Chief Entrepreneurship Officer at Ball State University, where he's also a distinguished professor of entrepreneurship, says even if some might be feeling drained, such an attitude towards innovation could endanger companies. But not just any innovation is good, he adds. In this edition of Biz News Interviews, Michael Goldsby offers his thoughts on how to recognize and cultivate innovation in organizations.
Recently, I think this week perhaps, the Los Angeles Times new technology columnist, Brian Merchant, wrote a column saying that many Americans appear to be in what he called an innovation fatigue. He says that over the past 20 years or so, there's been so much innovation, good, bad, up, down, whatever, that people are just kind of blah about it anymore. Do you see that?
I actually am working on some research right now. I'm writing about the effects of innovation on society. And a big part of innovation that I'm looking at is the societal reaction to innovation. So I would say that perhaps the fatigue could be coming with the public trying to figure out how the innovation is going to affect their lives. So we have a lot of truly big innovative things, but at the same time the innovations become stories. And so all the public discussion about these innovations and what they mean for their lives, that could have a little fatigue just from it being a big story. Because truly, I mean, innovation, I'm looking at something called responsible innovation. So entrepreneurs and innovators, they need to think about how society is going to react, because if society doesn't like the way it's perceiving that innovation, through legislation and other means, they can shut those types of things down.
Speaking of innovation and creativity, do you have to be a creative person to be an innovator, or can anybody innovate? And if so, how?
Well, there's probably different degrees of innovation. And so in our book, we talk about in our research that there's 4 types of creativity, and actually they're all 4 stages of getting to anything made. So you have a new idea. That's somebody who generates ideas. We know people like that. They're the typical creative person that comes up with a lot of ideas. And there's people like I am. I'm a big picture person. I'm the one that'll take all those ideas. You're probably that way too, I bet. When you're talking about these trends, look at the big picture. How do things fit together? What's it all mean? That's me. I'm a conceptualizer. I go for the big picture. We need that. And then when you get a big picture, then you try to optimize into what really matters. You'll find engineers are optimizers. They'll try to say, okay, so what are we really trying to accomplish here? And then you got the implementers. They're the people that get it done. So, if you're an innovative person, you really have to do all 4 things, or find other people who can do those things, because an idea is not enough, but just moving on things without thinking it through isn't good either. So it's kind of this balancing act. So when you say everyone we say has elements of creativity, we do think there are some people who are more creative in the aspect that they do all 4 of those things, or they find people to team with to do those things. Because at the end of the day, it's a good idea, but it's also bringing it out into the world.
You said a few minutes ago you were going to head off to Orlando and the Disney complex there, one of the more innovative companies in the United States when we think of innovation. But when we think of innovative failure, what pops into my mind at least is Kodak. Remember them?
Oh yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, Kodak. It's a fascinating story, and it's one that is tied to innovation as well, in the sense that it makes sense for companies to keep doing what they do well, you know, and to keep exploiting that, and to keep sustaining it and come up with new innovations. The problem is that they can get myopic, where they avoid looking at the other trends. And so there's a lot of research that says that it doesn't hurt a big company to have maybe a small group who's just exploring the possibilities of other technologies. We know that 3M was famous for that, where they would have, you know, a lot of R&D. Kodak, it failed because of its success. It had a great model for so many years. And then I saw recently, Doug, that General Electric is not in the Fortune 500 anymore. I think it's what I saw. General Electric, remember how they were the company, the world's best company in the world just about 20, 30 years ago? They were unbeatable. They owned everything. And now they're just a miniature version of what they once were.
What on earth happens to these big companies? In the case of Kodak, they actually had somebody who invented the first digital camera, but they said, "Oh no, that's going to affect how we sell Kodachrome."
Totally. I mean, and then the classic story connected to that is Blockbuster. So Blockbuster refused to pursue online until it was too late. So what happens is there's a professor, I believe he's at Harvard, Clayton Christensen, talks about disruptive innovation. People don't really understand what disruptive innovation really means. What it means, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're disrupting the world like Chat GPT is right now. That's a whole new type of technology. Disruptive is where you got these big companies, and they're dominating a market, and there's these small players who are pursuing these little things that the big players say it's not worth our time, and to a certain degree it's not worth big investments. However, if they're not keeping an eye on those trends, those things eventually sneak up on them, because they get customers, they get more customers, and by the time they have it all figured out, the big companies are too far behind. The small companies now are bigger. They've got loyal customers. They've got the brand, and if it's a better technology or innovation, within a matter of months or years, that big famous company can be gone.
It almost seems like you should put into the budget something called Skunk Works, some money to shovel over to the innovative people that you occasionally wander by and see what they're up to.
Totally, you should. And you know, the other thing is I think if you look at corporations around the United States, I don't think they have the R&D labs like they once did. You know, I don't see. Remember the big, like say IBM and Xerox PARC and all those big art labs like Bell Labs that had all these. You know, and I had one of my best friends worked at Bell Labs. He was a mentor to me, and he would tell me stories about these brilliant people just walking up and down the hallway, and their only job was to dream up ideas, they got the smartest people, and they put them in these these hallways, these buildings, and they would dream up these amazing things. And the thing about innovation is there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of, you know, out of 100, maybe sometimes it's only like 5 maybe make it, but if it's the right 5, it can be a game changer.
Bell Labs, famous for inventing the transistor.
Totally.
Xerox for inventing, hold it up, this little thing, the mouse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, but that requires people at the top ready and willing to accept that risk. If you're looking at having to increase your bottom line every quarter, or maybe every minute, in some cases it seems, that kind of inhibits that, doesn't it?
Does inhibit it. So it ends up being rational in the sense that if they're trying to keep focus on the stock price in the moment, but for the long-term game of the business, for its long-term sustainability and growth, it's a dangerous game to play. However, you know, if an executive is not seeing themselves being there for 20, 25 years, you know, and they're looking at a 3-5 year window or something like that, then they may not want to put resources into places that don't have an immediate payoff. And some of these technologies can take years sometimes to develop. And so we can see that, right? So now if you think about the free market at the capitalist global system of all these companies worldwide, the garage entrepreneur or the people working on something on the side in their homes, they might have day jobs, but they're working on something, or some bright group in some college town that has some people working together, and they'll find something that the big companies have no ideas going on.
Hewlett and Packard.
Yeah.
Garage in Palo Alto, but that was 70, 80 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost the edge to other countries?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that I don't know if we've lost the edge. We have to a certain degree. We don't have the advantage. I don't think we have the advantage. I think there are plenty of good competitors worldwide. It is a global competition now. We know that a lot of countries are putting a lot of investment into computer scientists and putting a lot into the sciences and the STEM type of programs worldwide. I'll tell you this, a lot of universities worldwide, we have a great university system, of course, but there's a lot of countries that are investing in their universities. And, that's, I'm in that business, and that's the creator of human capital, and human capital drives human ingenuity drives innovation. So there's certain areas we might have a little bit of an advantage, but these days I don't think anyone has a secure advantage anywhere in the world.
Well, as they like to say, in politics, it's become a horse race, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Yeah, so the book is called Design-Centered Entrepreneurship. It's a second edition, and what it is about is I wrote it with Rob Matthews, who's my colleague at Ball State, but also Dr. Min Bassiter. And Min Bassiter is a legend in innovation and creativity. I mean, I consider him one of the handful of all-time experts on creativity. And our group that we work with in the Bassiter group has done consulting and advisory jobs with Microsoft and Google, and IDEO uses a lot of the principles that Bassiter uses. And essentially what it is based on all this science from our research team and from Dr. Bassiter's 40 or 50 years in creativity. He's one of my mentors. We have come up with a research-supported, evidence-based approach to innovation and creativity, specifically designed in this book, for entrepreneurship, because you hear about, as we were talking earlier, 7 out of 10 businesses fail within a few years. And we think a big reason for that is sometimes they have a great product, but they have no market, though they're not really solving customers' real problems. So the focus of the book is, who's the real customer for this idea? What's their real problem? And how do we tailor that solution, that product, that service to what that customer actually wants? And so it incorporates design philosophies with the research-based creativity approach that Bassiter has developed over the 40 or 50 years.
Where can our listeners and viewers get more information? Do you have a website, perhaps?
We do. So we have 2 websites. Dr. Matthews and I have one called mind2momentum.com. So that's MIND, number 2, the 2, and then momentum, momentum.com, mind2momentum. And then Dr. Bassiter has a website, Bassiter, BASADUR.com. And then our book is also on Amazon and all the major outlets. But we do have websites, and I think you'll find on Bassiter's website a lot of that research from over the years that supports. I'll give you an example. We have in there, we talk about a profile of finding out which type of innovator you are. What are you, a generator, a conceptualizer, an optimizer, an implementer? And that close to 750,000 people have taken that survey over the years. It's been revised 8 times to where it is extremely valid. It is scientifically solid.
We'll let people go to the website and take that survey and see where they land.
Exactly. And then if they do, they'll find that there's a printout that gives them a lot of information about what they are.
Michael, what would you like to add that we've not had a chance to talk about? And we've hopped all over everything, but there might be a couple of things you wanted to get out that I haven't asked you about.
Well, I think the key thing that I would like to emphasize is that, as you said, there's a lot of concern and fatigue and fears going on in today's world. And one of the main things that we emphasize in the book, and it's a skill that if people can get this, it's a very powerful skill. It's reframing problems. It's looking for a new angle on a problem. So our book talks a lot about the phrase, how might we, or how might I? And so you don't always understand a problem well until you define it well. And that can take some time. So if you're stuck trying to get an idea, trying to figure out what problem you're trying to solve and noodle around with the way you phrase it, it could take a while to find that right insight that really captures it. But I'm telling you, when you could frame a problem a certain way, it takes your mind in a different direction, and that's where innovation comes from. So that's the big thought I'd like your listeners to know. Reframe problems until you put it into a form that you go, now that's the real problem.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.